Welcome everyone to another edition of the Alan Powell Show live on a Tuesday night. NBA Finals Game 3 is on the way. Series tied 1-1. And I got a special guest to talk to tonight. So come in with your hot takes and tell me what you think was going on in the NBA Finals. And we're going to get ready to lock and load, people. Let's go.
Hello, Alan Powell. It's the Alan Powell Show. Come on. It's the Alan Powell Show. Come on. It's the Alan Powell Show. It's the Alan Powell Show.
Thank y'all for joining once again. NBA Finals is tied 1-1. Miami comes back to tie the series up, wins on the road, and now we're going to Miami for Game 3. And a lot of things happened during that game that shocked me a little bit. But to get some coaches analysis, I have a special guest in the building. This is the living legend. We have Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame coach, 35 years of coaching, first woman to get a scholarship out of Indiana, Hall of Faith inductee, Ohio sports legend. We have Coach Sue Ramsey. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
thanks for having me.
Yes. You have done a lot, and we're going to talk about that later because a lot of things that I seen surprised me that I did not know that you did not mention at the coaches conference. But I definitely have to ask you about and things that that you talked about at the coaches conference. But I do want to talk about the NBA Finals, Game 2, and then previewing Game 3. And I know that you didn't personally watch the finals, but I still wanted to get your expertise. If I tell you what I saw,
okay,
as a coach, how do you move forward? And so, one, we know that the pros, they play a series, best 4 out of 7. And I know in college, it's basically one and done. But I guess if you can, during your coaching career, if you can just talk about, I guess, coaching different players. So Game 1, Denver won the first game. Miami missed a whole bunch of 3-point shots. And, you know, it was overreaction after the first game. A lot of people, Denver might sweep. This Miami don't have enough. But I tell you, this Miami team reminds me, it makes me think of a team that you might have coached. Some of the stuff that you said and the reason why I said that, some of the stuff that you said at the coaches conference about everyone knowing their role, every role is important, things of that nature. Game 2, they bounced back. The same players that missed a whole bunch of 3-point shots in the first game, they was not shy in taking shots in the second game. Their confidence never wavered. And so you have to give credit to Coach Eric Spoelstra. But when I look at that game, I say, okay, if this was Coach Ramsey coaching this Miami team, what type of words do you think Coach Spoelstra said to those same players that missed those shots in the first game? How did he able to keep them confident to come back in the second game and shoot those same shots and then make them? What type of conversation do you have with players who might have not played well in the first game, but you can get them come back to play in the second game?
Well, Al, I think the use of film is a huge thing. So he might have quickly, I mean, he's got so many staff, probably it was real easy, put together a series of clips of those players making those shots, because shooting is such a mental game. And just to build the confidence again, like, you have that shot. That is your shot. And you mentioned it, that's your role. We need you to make that shot because that's the job you do on this team. Other people rebound, other people are more assist people, but to maybe stream together reminders that you have done this and you've done it very well. And that's why we're here. We're two teams are left, and that's why
Right.
we're here. And so that visual image of making the shots oftentimes gets in athletes' heads. And now they're getting ready to shoot that shot. And it's like, oh, yeah, I've done this and I can see it.
Wow. Okay. So a lot of film. So visualization. And I know
Yes,
a lot of players say, "Oh, if you go to the free throw line and you see the ball going to hoop, that can get you going." So
right.
you can actually use that in the film study as well to get them going as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guarantee you they were watching some film, some positives.
I have a Black Butterfly Pod checking in on Facebook. To me, in this series, Bam is the Heat best and most important player. With that comment, I'm going to ask you another question. So one of a lot of the narrative that's been going on with this series is strategy with Nikola Jokic. This second game, he only had 4 assists. He had 41 points, and they said, "Oh, you know what? If we just make him a scorer and not allow him to assist to other players and get other players involved, then we will be better off." And it seemed like it worked. And stats say the Nuggets are 0-4 when he scores over 40. And so it seems like they are better when he's has more assists. He had 10 assists the first game, 4 assists the second game. They lost. Do you, as a coach, do you go in and say, if we make this person just do this, or do you just try to take away some things as a coach when you look at film of the other opponents?
Yeah, with a superstar like that, you try to make them one dimensional, and so that the stats don't lie. So that's an unbelievable stat that when he scores over 40, they don't do well. So take your shots, take your shots, and we'll give you those points, but we got to shut everybody else down because it is a team sport, and you're not just going to win with one guy scoring 40 points or whatever he did.
As a coach, are you more of an analytics or more of a field type of coach?
I probably, I've been done coaching for 8 years now, so the analytic part really wasn't in full swing when I was coaching. And you got to understand, I'm old. You heard some of those things that first scholarship. Well, that's because I'm old, and so I grew up playing and my first coaching without film. I mean, there was no film of me playing the game, and which is interesting. So when the film came in, and obviously came more sophisticated and huddle and all those kind of things, it was a big learning curve for me. And it's also why I hired assistant coaches that were younger and really good at that. So surround yourself with people that have the strengths that are your weaknesses, and things will work out well.
That was part of your notes as well, surrounding yourself with a good team.
Yes,
Uh,
great people.
when analytics came into the picture after you retired, what is your thoughts about it? Because in my opinion, I think with all the sports, baseball, football, basketball, I think it's too much analytics. And sometimes I'm more of a gut person, a feel. I want to know a feel of a game. Is
Yeah.
numbers useful? Yes. But I don't want to base everything off numbers. What are your thoughts about analytics?
I agree with you 100%. I think the element of sports is so fantastic because it's human beings doing what they do. And you look at the end of, some spectacular performances, and it's like, oh my gosh, that person came through, and who would have thought? Who would have thunk it? Or, maybe, someone's got 104 fever but they're feeling it that day. And I am so with you on that. I don't want it reduced to stats and numbers. I really think you got to know your people and make it about the people.
I think we have a question on here, Black Butterfly Pie. As a coach, when you look at the Heat, as Al said, they made him a scorer. Do you tell your players to play the others close and take away back cuts and split actions so that makes Jokic a scorer?
That's exactly how you would do it. Exactly. It's like, not as much help on defense, because when you're going to help out, then that leaves other people open. and subject to scoring on you. So yeah, lock down your person, play that hard man to man, and he'll get his points.
I wonder if they can keep that up, because I feel like it's a natural tendency to double or to help when you see someone posting up, especially the caliber of Jokic, when you know he can score at will, so to speak. So the natural tendency, even when I can just remember just playing pickup basketball, if you see somebody backing in back and he's getting good position, the natural instinct is to try to come help.
Right.
But how much discipline do it take to tell your players, stay with your man, do not move?
Yeah, that's the word right there. Discipline. The stats prove it, and you're capable of doing it. So stay home. We call that staying home. Stay on your man and just be disciplined. And whoever's guarding him, just allow him to handle it one-on-one.
Another aspect of the game that was very interesting to me was Duncan Robinson. The reason why he was interesting is because he was out of the rotation during the season. And with injuries to the Heat, he got back into the rotation in the playoffs. And it's amazing because he got a big contract. He signed a 5-year, $90 million contract, I believe a couple of years ago. And he ended up falling out of rotation, was not even playing at all. But he was called upon, and he was very key in last game. He scored like 8 straight points. And he's basically a shooter, but you can tell the progression in his game where he's starting to drive the ball. From a coach perspective, how do you keep players' confidence when they're out of rotation, but at any moment you might need to call on them and they have to be ready?
Right.
What do you tell players like that when they're out of the rotation, but you might need them later on?
It goes back to my whole theme of what I talk about is great teams have great teammates. And so it's like a piece of the puzzle. So you do a jigsaw puzzle, and if one of those pieces is missing, the puzzle's not complete. So reminding your athletes that team, no matter what role you're playing, all roles have equal value. And that's hard, especially at the pro level because of money. But all roles have equal value, and therefore your role is important no matter what that is. And yes, when you're called upon, step up and do what the team needs and what's being asked of you. The other thing is in practices, and I'm not sure at the pro level, what practices look like, but in practices, to really reinforce as a coach, I really wanted to reinforce the role that those that don't play in practice, and they know that they're making the person that's out on the floor better because they have just dogged them all practice and they have just been on them. And even to have those players that do play really give a shout out and acknowledge the players that are in practice or making them better, I think goes a long way.
I think we have another question that says, what would be your adjustment as a coach to tell Jokic to counter that? So, like we said, Jokic was able to do what he wanted to do to game 1, had a triple-double, was doing everything. Game 2, they made him mainly a scorer, and they lost.
Yeah.
So if they continue with that same strategy, is there anything that can counter that? Or people just individually have to play better to make them react to something else? Is this simply as players have to play better if they're going to play the way that they're playing against Jokic?
Yes, I think that's part of it. I also think that perhaps off the ball action needs to be better, so it creates maybe not coming from a double team and somebody open, but it even creates those other 4 players a little bit of havoc with their defenders, so they can find a way to get open.
That's a great answer, because I love watching Golden State play because of all the off the ball action. Right. They don't have a Jokic on their team, but I always looked at Jokic as a scoring Draymond Green, meaning he can get the ball, he can score. Draymond, when he get the ball, he's looking to pass off the action that you're talking about. So I definitely think if the Denver Nuggets get a chance to listen to this show, they need to listen to Coach Ramsey. You need some off the ball action, and I think that's another way to free Jamal Murray up to score more, because when he scores more, I think they're more prone to win as well. But off the ball action for Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., I think will be great for that team. And I look forward to seeing if Mike Malone will make the adjustments. Because if I'm looking at the coaching dynamics, I think everybody would agree that Coach Spo has the edge as far as experience, X's and O's. It seems like Coach Spoelstra is a little bit ahead of the game.
Mhm.
And I want to ask you this, because it seems like that Mike Malone was Coach Spo might be in Mike Malone's head. So, and the reason why I say that is because at the end of the game, when they was down by 3, he had the opportunity to call a timeout, but he said, "No, I don't want to call a timeout because I don't want the defense to their defense to get set up,
Right.
and they're too great." I felt like he gave Coach Spoelstra too much credit than for him to be able to design a play to get a great look. Now, the look that they got was good, but he missed it. But it just seems like this reminded me of the Water Boy when the coach couldn't get over the other coaches. He was in his head and he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
afraid of
yeah.
them. He was
Uh-huh.
afraid of them. And I
Yeah.
felt like Mike Malone might be a little afraid of Spoelstra because of his coaching acumen.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are you more of a timeout person, or and I also like when you don't call the timeout sometimes, because you got the defense scrambling, they got to kind of figure it out at the same time. Are you more of a call the timeout or just let the players go?
Well, I tell you, over my 35 years of coaching, I can look back and say I probably called the timeouts with teams that weren't as talented,
Okay.
but the more talent I had, and a team that won a national championship, the trust factor was there, and that they just knew each other so well and knew what to do, and all those teams that had success in the win-loss columns, there was a connective piece between my point guards and me. So it's almost like, you know what I'm thinking before I'm going to say it.
Right.
And so you got it. And that trust and confidence in them, go for it. And I love that when those talented athletes and teams were part of my coaching, that was a lot of fun.
And I think that's probably what played the part. I think he does have the talent. I guess he trusted Jamal Murray to get a good shot, which he did. He missed it.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't like for him to say that, I guess, publicly. You know, it's all. I guess it's kind of a mind games being played.
Right.
You know, at the same time. So
Yeah.
I don't like him saying that. But I get what you're saying, having like another coach on the floor when you have a great point guard, talent,
Right.
or just great IQ.
Right. Yeah. And we talk about the game is so mental for the players.
Yes.
It can be very mental for the coaches as well. You're exactly right, especially in series. I mean, you see each other so much, and you've got this long series going. Now, you go in and play a team once, you probably don't, as a coach, pay as much attention to the other coach or be intimidated by him. But in a series, I can see that happening.
This Black Butterfly Pod, he said he just loved coaches, so he continued with the questions. He says, do you mean like more post-ups, have them run harder on the defensive rebounds to get them more in transition to cause mismatches, which could lead to more opportunities for others, more pinch post action? I'm sorry, I'm a coach and I just love coaches.
The answer is yes, all the above. All
Yeah.
the above.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some little flare screens on the perimeter. Yes, run. Transition. That's a perfect point right there. You run harder and you make something happen in transition before defense even has a chance to get in that denial position. You can get some assist off that as well.
Last thing on this series, the Miami Heat, I don't even know how they're at this point. They're 8th seed. They got a whole bunch of undrafted players. It don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But that's why I also said this team reminds me of a coach, a team that you might coach, because it seems like everybody knows their roles. You don't know what to expect from this team. You don't know who's going to be the hot person on the team. It's like different players are stepping up at different times, and
Yeah,
Denver should be a little nervous because role players play better at home in the playoffs as well. So you
sure.
definitely don't know who's going to be hot. Um, I, I guess usually in college basketball, you see these type of teams thrive, especially the unknown teams, people you might not have a lot of information about. But this Miami team is doing something that we have never seen before in the NBA. How do he get a whole bunch of undrafted players to play at this level, from a coach's perspective? How do you get a team that didn't get drafted in the first round to play and play well?
Yeah. Well, you nailed it. It's that team. It's that team concept. And honestly, if you have that, and it's very difficult at any level, but especially the pro level, where no one cares who gets the credit, that the team success is the priority and is the most important thing, then look out. I mean, like you said, if the Heat has that as their core value and what they really build their program on, then it's a dangerous weapon.
Man, that's amazing that you said that. This series is really bringing, to me, in my opinion, is bringing a more focus on coaches, because for a lot of years it's been about the talent. If you got more talent, that's usually going to win out. And matter of fact, I think at the coaches conference, one of the coaches said coaching was overrated. He said that. I forget which one. And I was shocked to hear him say it, but he said it, and I think for a lot of years, a lot of people believe that. But I think in this NBA playoffs, you can see and tell that coaching makes a difference, because we have never seen this before, and I wonder, why isn't it more coaches able to do this type of thing? Do you have a theory on why more coaches in the NBA can't get this type of production from these type of players?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that would require a lot of research, I'm sure. But it could be a trend. It could be a change in the way people are looking at things. It could be there's more talent coming out of the college level, and therefore maybe not those high profile players, but finding that when we get that next level talent together and a willingness to work together and be a team, again, not caring who gets the credit, then this can be the result. So this could be the beginning of kind of a changing of the guard, so to speak.
Do you think it's hard to do that based on the salaries that the players are making? And
All the
Coach Spo,
attention. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Coach Spo is, I think, one of the last highly respected coaches. Him, Popovich. I like Rick Carlisle, but it's not a lot that can get that respect. I'm a Bulls fan, and I just feel like Donovan is not the guy, and
Okay.
not because of his own way, but I don't feel like he's getting to the players.
Mm.
And so I look at a Coach Spoelstra, I'm like, man, I wish the Bulls can get a coach in like that would get the respect. But do you said you think it could be a trend
Well,
coming?
you look at like Phil Jackson. I
Yeah.
mean, Phil was into a lot of the mental aspect of things and Zen and all that, and focusing on, I think, bringing those egos into check and having a mesh and be one team, and obviously had a lot of success doing that. So, with coaching, a lot of things seem to be cyclical. So it might circle back to some things that have worked in the past, and really it depends on where you hang your hat, what your core values are, what your vision is for your program, and then how you reinforce that. Not I love this quote, I said it at the conference. culture isn't created in a day, it's created every day. And so how you reinforce that every day in all aspects, and not just on the court, but everything that you do. And at the pro level, you do a lot of that together for a long period of time.
I hope it is a trend that's coming because I like the aspect of coaching X's and O's. I've seen Popovich, if his player's not playing well to starters, he'll take the whole starting lineup out
Yep,
and put bench players in because you're not showing me anything. Uh,
it's good.
Last question we had on here says, I have a final question. Who is your top 5 coaches of all time? It can include men and women.
Top 5. Wow. Well, I got to go back to the college ranks, and I hope that's okay.
Yes. Yes.
So big fan and friend of Pat Summitt.
Okay.
No doubt about it. She just did so much for our game, but just the brilliance of the X's and O's. She was just tremendous. Also, just a big fan of the Oklahoma coach Sherry Cole, who recently retired. And I love what Sherry does or did because it was very holistic. So she had her kids learning finances and investing money their freshman year. She was prepping them for life after basketball and after college. And I think that's part of our responsibility as coaches. Kay Yao would be another one, NC State. Just an incredible, soft-spoken but strong woman of faith, and just really her actions and her words matched up perfectly. So I pull those 3 as my top. I know you probably want somebody on the men's side there, and I mean I've got a lot of coaches that I respect immensely on the men's side. I can't probably pull up a favorite on it, but just a just a lot of people that I would take a lot of things from on both the men's and women's side.
That's good. I like the 3. You came up with 3. So, and
Okay.
3, I think 3 is good. I think 3 is good.
And our person there liked Pat too, so that's good.
Yes. You definitely nailed one. So that works. I want to go ahead and get to your coaching career because I met you at the coaches conference, and everything that you were saying, it was great, but I was also shocked to hear some of the things that you say because you don't find a lot of people that wear their faith in coaching. That I haven't seen it anyway.
Okay.
And so to hear that, I was shocked. I was happy that this was being shared. And so, but I want to go down your career. First, I want to go back to when you was a player. So you was the first woman you didn't mention this at the coaches conference. You was the first woman to get a basketball scholarship in Indiana. I'm in Indiana right now, so that you have Indiana ties, which is great. But how does that feel, being the first woman to have that means you had some game. Let's start there.
Well, thank you. I also great timing in that. I grew up a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, and my parents were both Ohio State grads. And I would go up in the summers and play with the team and all that. But I knew I needed to get further from home. So my main reason for going to Indiana, I asked another coach that I knew very well. I said, I want to play for a Christian coach. And so the coach at Indiana at the time, interesting, was a doctoral student who got paid $500.
Wow.
Yeah. And the team had been very successful. My senior backcourt, my freshman year, was Tara Vanderveer. Everybody should know Tara. There's another favorite coach, Stanford's coach, and Debbie Owing, who was on the first Kodak All-American team. So those two did the run and jump before anybody knew what a run and jump was. And my job as a little freshman that could run really fast was to follow the All-American down the floor in case she missed a layup. So she never missed a layup. She was an All-American. and I would get really good at backpedaling, giving high fives. So I loved my role, and that was a really fun thing. So anyway, my freshman sophomore year, same coach, and then she left and went to a Christian school, Taylor University, to be a full-time coach there. And that was the year that they permitted women to receive athletic scholarships for their athleticism, not just it had been academic money before that. So new coach came in. Well, the previous coach told me that I would be receiving one, and I was very grateful and very thankful, and didn't see that one coming. And my parents were pleased. I was paying out of state tuition, so that was a real blessing. Yeah.
And just to think of that story, you was bold in your faith at an early age. You can't. I want to play for a Christian coach.
Yeah.
That's very bold at what, at age 18?
Yes, 18. Yes, it was. And yes, it just, the way I was raised, but mom and dad, and just tremendous role models for me, and then just great support, and just part of who I am, and all the things that God's done in my life. Just all the glory to him.
Wow. So you started Indiana, then you transferred to Miami for your senior season.
Right.
How does that work? So when you transfer, how is it transferring? I've never been good enough to go to play for college and then transfer from Indiana to Miami. That's a big change. That's a big weather change.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, it was interesting. So that new coach came in, and couldn't have been more opposite than the coach that I had in the beginning. So at that point in time, it was a challenge to me, a good challenge that really challenged me to stand firmer in my faith and stand up for the things that I really believed in. And it was hard. I loved Indiana. It was really hard leaving. But the coach at Miami, and this is Miami of Ohio, by the way, the coach at Miami had been my grad assistant my freshman year at Indiana. So I had some connections already. And it was hard. Back in those days, you could transfer and play right away. But if you were receiving money, you had to give it back. So there was another thing I had to kind of explain to my parents. It's like, this is, I wasn't, I want to say the joy of the game had been taken away, and the purpose of why I was playing. So transferred, and it just was refreshing, and it was just a wonderful situation, and stepped right in as a transfer senior. Freshman, thought I'd been there all 4 years, was co-captain. It just, God laid the groundwork for me and made it happen. So I'm very thankful to Miami, and I went back and coached there 1 year, and they've treated me very well.
So when you transferring, how does that go with your parents? Now, do they have to come out of pocket now to pay?
Yeah. But at least I was coming back in state. There was a plus there. Yeah. We had to kind of scrounge around and find some more money. But my parents, here was the thing: they would come to games when I was playing in Indiana, and all over the place. They just show up, and I never told them my junior year the struggles I was having with the coach, because I thought, why worry them, right? I mean, what are they going to do? This is my battle, and I think that's really important, because I think some generations now, as we've come through, maybe don't want to fight their own battles, and mom and dad are too involved. So they really appreciate it. And once I sat down with them, told them all the things that were going on, they were like, oh my goodness, we totally understand. And that's the type of people that they were.
That's great that they was very
oh yeah.
Moving on. So after your playing career, you get assistant coach jobs at Illinois State, Miami of Ohio, and Cincinnati.
Yeah, high school coach first, though. So I went back to Indiana, and I tried it out at the high school level, and that was great. I Noblesville, Indiana, and I had 3 years there, and I was also athletic trainer, because I had a minor in athletic training, and so I just loved every bit of that. But then at that point, I was like, okay, now I need to go back to the college ranks and kind of climb that ladder.
How was it being? And well, I guess let's go back to the high school, since you did do high school. How was it coaching high school kids?
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. I was back in Indiana, and once they found out that I had played at Indiana University,
Yeah.
it was kind of like, whoa, so the respect level was pretty high. And I just had tremendous. I stay in touch with a couple of them, as a matter of fact, and that was a long time ago. Um, Athletes that were just ready to learn. And I coach basketball. I coach track and field, and I coach cross country, and I was the head athletic trainer. So you do a lot of things, at the
Yeah.
high school
Yeah.
level, and which was fun. It was great. I really enjoyed every bit of it. And but at the end of 3 years, I knew it was time to take the next step on my journey.
So you move up, assistant coaches in college. How was that dynamic from coaching high school players to college players?
Learning curve. Uh, Starting off as a GA at Illinois State, I was the fourth in line. So we had two actually co-coaches, and then assistant coach, and then myself. And I laugh about this now. I didn't even get to sit at the end of the bench. The front of the bench. I had to sit at the end of the bench with the manager and trainer and keep stats down there. But that's okay. I learned a lot, and was thankful for that situation with some great people there. And then an opportunity came after 1 year as a GA to be the assistant coach back at Miami with my head coach, and jumped on that. And then after 1 year, she left, and I went for the head coaching job and came in second. And that's okay. There was a reason. So then I went down the road to Cincinnati and was there for 2 years as the assistant coach. And every opportunity, it was like 4 years of 3 different schools, but different coaches, and just soaking it all in and learning a lot of different things.
Wow. 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 So after that,
Yes.
head coach, Aiden, now you're the head woman in charge.
Yes.
How is it being? And then now you have to pick your own staff. How do you go about picking your
Yeah.
staff and
When
being
I
the head?
when I look back at that, so I went from Cincinnati to University of Dayton head coach, and I was clueless. I thought I was 30 years old, just turned 30, and I shouldn't say clues, but yeah, I was pretty close to being clueless on a lot of things. But I, again, surrounded myself with great people and learned a lot along the way. Don Donaher, the men's coach at University of Dayton, legend, was ended up being a tremendous friend and a tremendous help for me in my early years there and learning things. But I also recognized that the Division I level, I was there 8 years, and that's right at the time Division I started changing a little bit on the women's side, which was good, and change was good for that, with more money coming in and all. But it really, to me, was becoming more of a business than an education, just my perspective.
Right.
And so when I left there, and then a year later found Ashland University, or they found me, the Division II was the perfect place for me. It was my niche.
Can you talk about how did you go about as far as recruiting?
Ah,
How was that?
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of things evolved as far as my growth and my knowledge, but I think the key to once I was at Ashland, and the key to really turning that program into what it is today, was coming up with my vision statement and my core values for the program. And once I did that, then it made everything else clear. It made my hiring of assistant coaches clear. It made my recruiting clear. I would sit down with recruits, show them, it's called the court, and show them what we stood for, and that we were going to reinforce that every day. And if they loved it and bought into it, that was great. If that wasn't their niche, then it saved me from making mistakes along the way.
Right.
So most mistakes. But that really became the foundation of our program. And then, I'd be out there with other coaches, with high school coaches, would call and say, hey, this is an Ashland kid. So it became an identity that, this kid cares about this, and this, and that's what your program cares about. So it's going to be a good fit.
Good. So you had a reputation. Now you getting kids steered to to that school because of the reputation.
Right, right.
That's
Yeah.
great. So now you transition to Ashland, and it says 20 years at Ashland and the championship in 2013, and then a 2-year span where you were 70-3.
Yeah. Go
Jeez.
go figure, huh? Well, let me give you a little background. First of all, Ashland University, just I owe a lot to them.
Mm,
Major kudos because they were very patient with me to allow me to stay for 20 years to build a program. In 2000, we won 6 games.
wow.
So I tell coaches all the time now, it's like it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It's a race of endurance, and you have to be willing to stay the course and hold true to your values. And there's going to be ups and downs and all that. But I had a great athletic director that said, what are we going to do to turn this around? So that concept of team, even with him, just so appreciate Bill Goldring and all he allowed me to do and gave me the support for. So that was key. And because the program had this identity, we started getting some players interested in coming to play for us, a couple D1 transfers, some kids that were recruited for D1 that wanted the environment, wanted to have D2, which is more of life in the balance and more opportunities to grow in their faith and those kind of things. So that landed us Jenna Stutzman from Berlin Highland in 2010, and then Carrie Doherty Pickens, who was the 2-time national player in 2012 and 13, who's now currently the head coach, who
Wow.
just won the program's 3rd national championship. So
Wow.
yeah, pretty fun.
So you talked about 1 year, only 6 wins. And then
Yes.
if you go back to Dayton, how did you stay with it when stuff wasn't going well? How did you say, I'm sticking with this?
Right.
I just got to keep going.
I get young coaches asking me that all the time. They look at me and say, "Oh my gosh, 35 years, I'm not going to make it 3." So I say, "Hang in there." Al, as I look back on it, you're in the moment, you're doing it, and it's really, I owe it all to my calling. I just knew that God had a plan and a purpose, and it was in this field, and for me to do it. And I got out of it for a year. The year between Dayton and Ashland, I was out for a year, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. But it
Mm.
was a necessary year. It was kind of my breaking year, and it had me line things up differently and do it when I came back to it a little bit different in my faith and in my actions and those kind of things. So I think it was really what I was meant to do and meant to have that opportunity through the avenue of coaching to be an influence on young athletes.
So when you're going through the tough seasons, because I feel like when you're winning, it's easy to keep
Yeah.
going. But what things do you look for when you're not winning? When you're not winning, what things can you hold on to say, okay, this was a positive, or this was a win, a small victory here? What
Right.
what do you look for when seasons are not going the way that you think it should go?
I think the biggest thing was always an emphasis that uh, my players' education was first. They are student athletes. And so the record that I appreciate the most, even the 70-3 was great, but is that 100% of my athletes have a college degree that played for me for 4 years. And so knowing that they were going to go out and do something and make something of their lives. And again, just so blessed, a lot of positive reinforcement from those athletes that I coached, just feeding back into me. I've been in numerous weddings and been there for the birth of the kids and all that kind of stuff. And then just surrounding yourself. It doesn't have to be a big circle, but it has to be a quality circle of your support. And starting with my mother and father, and then just a circle of coaches that are there to encourage me and friends.
So when you able to get this graduation rate and see that you've been able to help these students, how do you do that as a coach? How do you make sure that they're on their square, so to speak, with their schooling? How do you do that? Like, do you in practice? Hey, what's going on in school before we start practice? How do you do that?
Well, I had a counselor at Dayton. She had been chair of the English department, and she came in one day and she said, "Coach Ramsey," she said, "why do you have study tables?" And I said, "Oh, because that's what we're supposed to do, right? We tell mom and dad, look, they're studying from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock every night." She goes, "You really think they're studying?" And I said, I don't know." And she said, "No, they're not." And she just laid it out to me. And so it was an eye opener for me. And when I got to Ashland, I sought out the assistance of a counselor there, just a brilliant guy, Oscar McKnight. And I said, "Would you be willing to meet with my players?" And at that time, I think I said it like anybody below below a 2.5 or something like that. And it was teach them how to take notes, teach them how to study for tests, teach them those skills so that then they're ready for any situation. And I'll tell you what, he was shocked. He said, "Yeah, you're going to do this for about 5 minutes, and then you'll want a study table." I said, "Nope, I promise you, I'm committed to this," and it worked. And Oscar and I talk often, and he's like, "Man, I knew it would work, and I got the right guy, and that was a blessing." But all those kids built relationships with him too, and it just made sense to me that you do give them the tools, and then they're going to be much more successful.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. It makes sense now because I've always wondered, like, how do these coaches able to get these kids to graduate? And I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it's different methods, but that's
right.
that you did that.
It was a good one. Yeah.
So 2015, you retire.
Hmm.
Um Hall of Fame 2018. Uh how does that feel to be inducted to the Ohio Basketball Hall of
Uh,
Fame?
just humbling. Um, and probably the coolest part was, yes, I was inducted individually, but my whole team was inducted, that
Mm,
2013 team.
yeah.
And that, I mean, great teams have great teammates, right? So that made total sense to me, and just honored and very humbled by that, and all the other accolades that have been bestowed upon me. I'm very, very grateful.
Well, let's go down the line because I have a few.
Oh, geez. Oh, gee. You bore the audience.
We got the creative of coaches,
Mm,
um, the sports legend, Ohio sports legend, but the one that stuck out to me is the Hall of Faith.
mm.
Um, and it is giving some Abraham vibes. Could you talk about the Athletes in Action Hall of Faith, what that is and what does it mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's that one in the K Yao award, uh, just go even deeper than just the basketball accolades, and just again humbled to be recognized, that the faith piece was consistent and perfectly effective of those around me, and in no way, I mean, grace and mercy got extended to me. I mean, I screwed up many, many a time. We all fall short of the glory of God, that's for sure. But just really a special connection with those that have received the same honor, and those that gave it. And just again, very grateful and thankful for that.
That's great. That's great. I love that. That means that your faith is seen
Mm.
by many to be inducted like that. So you amazed me when I seen you at the coaches conference. I did not know that I was going to be going to a mini church service. But some things stuck out. I wrote down some notes from the coaches conference, and I just
Good.
just
Good
talk
boy.
talk about a few things that you talked about. Uh, you said all roles have equal value. Could you talk about, before I get to the next one? Could you talk about all roles have equal value? Because I think that was great that you said that, especially for coaches.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. I tell coaches all the time, whoever is in your care, whoever's on that team, each one of them is the most important person. And again, that's all roles have equal value. And for that time in that place, God has assigned them and brought them to you. And your responsibility to them, whether they play a single minute for you or get an at bat or whatever sport it is, your responsibility to them goes way beyond what they do physically for you. It's about the development of their heart and their soul, and that's I wish more coaches would look at that as the three dimension, we call it the three dimensions of people, and take that responsibility. It's a coach will influence more people in 1 year than the average person does in a lifetime. Billy Graham said that. And you talk about somebody who could pack a house, right? He said that. And it's so true. And you see so many kids just scarred and damaged. And I was a little bit myself, even by coaches that don't take that seriously and don't invest in all three aspects of a person's life.
Wow. Another thing that you said, that you would think it seems simple, but it was so profound to me. You said you don't have to be great to serve, but you have to serve to be great. And if I'm looking at your coaching career, it seems that you served first, and then you was able to be great afterwards. So you were living proof of what you said. But could you just talk about that comment?
Yes, I read that first. John Gordon. I don't know if he originally said that, but if you read any John Gordon books, they're all tremendous, just for life and for leadership. And it just makes so much sense, because again, it goes back to spiritual principles. I mean, it goes back to Jesus, that he didn't come to this earth to be served. He came to serve, and he's washing his disciples' feet, and he's telling them, I've given you an example, do unto others as I've just done to you. And if you do that, it's amazing. Not only does the person you're serving feel value and respect and rewarded, but it comes back on you 100-fold. Because when you do something out of your heart and giving to others, and to do it, if you can do it like Oprah talked about, random acts of kindness, and they don't even know it, that's even more fun. And I just think it's something that if we can teach that can be a building block for many people's lives, for our athletes that go on, and to recognize that will serve them well throughout their entire life.
In such a selfish society that we're in now, how do you get people to get that mindset to say, hey, let me serve first? And if I'm being completely honest, I've read that in the scriptures plenty of times, but it's another thing to actually get the heart to do that. Like,
Sure.
how do you get people to get that heart? Is it something that people have to get on their own? Is this something where you can explain? Is it just basically sometimes your life, you can tell your life and how it went, or how can you prove that to be true to make people do it more?
I think the best way is by example. I think you just make it a part of your life and live it on a consistent basis by example. You let people in traffic, pull in front of you. I mean, just hold doors for people, just go out of your way to serve people, and that example, eventually you just got to hope and pray that it catches on. I mean, Matthew 5:16 says, let your light let your light shine before men in such a way that they will see your good works and glorify your Father who's in heaven. So, everything you do, and then point it back to him.
We had a question to pop up. He says, has she coached any players that identified their passion for coaching as they were playing? Now, I know you talked about players that's coaching now who was winning a national championship. Did they ever express while they were playing that they wanted to coach?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And it was great, because when they identified that, then I could I would bring them in and talk to them from the perspective of a coach. And so, I would involve them maybe sometime. Okay, you write up practice today, and let's see what that looks like. And just give them some challenging situations. So the mentoring piece, and I talked about this in the conference, is so big. And people, we got to take that on ourselves and know that we have to continue. I had tremendous mentors in my life that I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for them. And that's one thing, we've got to pass it on, and we got to be intentional about mentoring. So providing those opportunities and situations. The player, the two-time National Player of the Year, who's the coach now, Carrie Pickens, was actually injured her senior year, sat out for 8 games. And it was interesting because I never knew it then, but later on she told me, she said, Coach, when I was sitting out, that's when I got the passion for coaching. So she said, I saw it from your perspective. And so when she graduated, I went to some boosters and raised some money. And I said, I got to keep this young lady on staff. And so she came on board as assistant, and the rest, as we say, is history.
Black Butterfly Pod says you got to bring her back. This was super insightful, dropping gems.
Thanks.
This man, he just don't know when you was at the conference, and I'm just dropping a few of them that you said. And so the last one that I want to talk about, the last gems that I want to talk about that you said. This, I never even thought about this way, but once again, it seems simple. It seemed like a lot of people should know this. I should have known this. I should have thought about this, but I didn't. I never thought about it, but it makes perfect sense. Okay, here we go. It says, you said, let's see, where we at? I just had it. Jeez, wait. Okay, here we go. I lost it again. Basically, you said 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yeah.
He said the mouth can close, but the ears always stay open.
That's right.
I said, oh, mind blown. Mind blown. 2 ears, 1 mouth, which can close, but the ears are always open.
Yep.
That was amazing to me, but could you just talk about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The art of listening. And again, you talk about society today and all the busy and noise and social media and all those things. It's like a lot of stuff's coming at us, and we want to regurgitate a lot of things too. But just to be able to learn to listen. And one of the greatest ways to do that is be a person that asks questions. Ask questions.
Yes.
And really it builds relationships. It even if it's a perfect stranger, you're asking insightful questions, and not nosy, not invading their stuff, but you're just asking them, and people want to tell you about themselves. So ask questions, and now you're pouring value into that person. And when you walk away, they're like, oh. And again, it's all about connectivity, right? So if I'm going to be an example of serving and I've connected with that person, now they might pay attention a little bit more, like, oh yeah, that person. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what does she do? Oh, she lets people in traffic. Oh, yeah. It just gets it rolling. And yeah, learn to be a good listener.
My sister Kyra Frazier, yes, I like her, Al. So a lot of people is loving what you're saying. It's
Thank
saying
you.
I got to bring you back. So I don't know what we're gonna do in the future, how we're gonna do it, but we're definitely gonna have to do something in the future. You got to come back again.
Love to.
I like Coach Ramsey, great sense of humor. All of those gems, transfers in life, business, etc. I completely agree. Definitely
Yes,
in
sir.
life, business, coaching, all the above.
It does. Transcends all areas of our life.
Yes.
Team does. Yeah.
I do like to give before I leave, this has been great, and I thank you so much for your time. I try to give a scripture of the day, something that sticks out to me. This week's scripture of the day was Luke 16:12, and it kind of goes exactly what we've been talking about. It says, and if you have not been faithful with the belongings of another, who will give you belongings of your own? And
Oh,
it's different versions of that, but I always think about when it comes to serving. If you can't serve somebody else's vision, business, why will God give you your own if you
yeah.
can't serve
Yep.
someone else's vision, dream?
I like it. That's great.
Yes. So
That's great.
yeah, and I love the amplified version goes even deeper
Sure.
to the description, but this is uh a great scripture that I came across, and I hope that it will bless someone to keep this serving message going through. If you serve someone else's vision diligently, he would eventually give you on. And once again, I go back to your coaching career when you was an assistant serving, and then you was able to be the head coach. So
Mm,
it kind of just goes along with being faithful
yeah,
to someone else serving, and then you're able to get your own. But
yeah.
that's the scripture of the day.
It's
I
great.
hope you be a blessing to someone.
Amen.
Coach Ramsey, thank you so much for doing this. This was fun.
Yes.
Um, I'm very grateful and thankful that you did this. I met you and you was amazing when I talked to you, and you called back and you did this, and I'm just very grateful that you did it.
Thank you, Al. I appreciate you. I appreciate your heart and your faith and just the people that you're touching too. And just you're truly a blessing. So thank you for having me.
Listen, we are about to get out of here. Coach Ramsey, thank you again for coming on. Um, we will see y'all next Tuesday, and we're going to find a way to bring Coach Ramsey back somewhere in the future. I don't know what, but I do have her number. So
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I
And
do.
use it. Use
Yeah,
it.
I will. I will. Thank y'all. We are out.
Hello, Alan Paps. It's the Alan Paps Show. Yeah.